righty, what's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. We are back. This is the first time that we haven't had a guest, I think, in like a
Months.
Wow. So we've
So
actually
you have
been doing
Thursday. I can do Thursdayan. I like that.
Yeah,
Thursdayan.
It doesn't quite roll off the tongue as well as Thursday,
no, it doesn't.
but so excited to hang out with y'all. We're gonna kind of talk about we're gonna talk about the market. I know I've gotten a lot of DMs about, hey, thanks for talking about the market in a realistic way. And so, I definitely wanted to bring that here with obviously Unicorn Finders, especially because Dan, Dan's in Tampa. He sees a different part of the country, but we're all seeing the same stuff. So, Dan, let's go ahead and dive in, man. I mean, obviously, like just kind of initial thoughts on the market.
Yeah, man, it's a little bit crazy right now. I think there's a lot of things going on right now. One, obviously, there's a big slowing down of CapEx spend, right? Like I think a lot of projects, a lot of those things have really.
What is CapEx for people? To like,
so you have like OpEx and CapEx, right? OpEx is what keeps your business going. So a lot of your salaries, your permanent roles, your rent, your other expenses and expenditures that you have around the office. So those are the things that are budgeted for every year. They're pretty fixed throughout the year. Your capital expenditures are things that you spend to improve the business, whether on the IT side, it's building out enhancements to your product, whether it's modifying, whether it's bringing in like a new ERP system, right? Like those types of capital expenditures that are for a fixed amount of time. It could be for 6 months, could be for 2, 3, 4 years, but like that money gets allocated based on like what the difference is between spend and projected revenue, right? So those types of things have slowed down, like non-essential enhancements. There's been probably a big slowdown in just overall like nice to haves, not need to haves, right? And with that comes a lot of your contract labor, right? I think I saw a stat that said contract labor is down in the double digits. I know staffing firm revenue in Q1 was down about 8% just overall across the country. So a lot of those things are really starting to pile up now. So I do think that we are a victim as a society of reading headlines too. So I think a lot of people will look at what large businesses are doing or, these companies that are just monolithically bigger than they are and be like, oh, well, if they're laying off people, we must have to lay off people, right? So is a recession coming? Maybe, right? A recession's been coming for the last 3 quarters and we've not gotten there. Is it going to be this quarter? Is it going to be next quarter? Is it going to be whatever? So, but I think a lot of people learn from like 2008, 2009, like, hey, if something is coming, let's cover our bases rather than just kind of operate business as usual. And that affects a lot of people.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of trickle down, especially in tech. I mean, I don't know about you. I saw tech starting to get hit in August of last year.
I was going to say like June, July.
Yeah, just with my personal business, we were humming up until about August, and then we took the hit. And I feel like the rest of the world is kind of catching up. But I do feel, I don't know what you've heard in your neck of the woods, but I do feel like this is more tech specific, which is fascinating. Or are you seeing it on your end on the accounting finance side too?
Yeah, I don't know. Our accounting and finance team is definitely a little slower. Staffing is certainly a little slower in that world. Tech, we talked about it for years. We called this, we're a bit of soothsayers on this podcast. So if you are looking for future guidance of what's going to happen in the world, keep listening.
We've actually done a pretty good job. I do have
we have literally called this to the T, right?
Yeah.
So tech has been definitely impacted, right? And how much of that was necessary to begin with, right? Like when we talk about CapEx, right? Going back to that, let's make this entire conversation full circle. When you talk about CapEx expenditures, like there's not always going to be a huge revenue stream that follows, right? It may be something that you try. We have the resources, we have the money. Money was super cheap. Let's go out and try this. Maybe it doesn't work out, or maybe we wanted to build these new, add-ons to our product, and maybe just the market wasn't there to say, hey, these are necessary, or these are going to be massive, revenue generators for us in the future. So there's a couple different types of people that have been impacted. One, is middle management, upper middle management, right?
Yeah.
A lot of those positions have been removed, whether it's moving back to individual contributors, and you've seen this a lot at the big tech firms, right? Or it's if we lose somebody, we may not replace, and we're just going to add that to somebody else's, job responsibilities.
Sure.
Um, that's where it's been impacted, I think, the biggest, right? As a
Yep.
percentage of those people. In terms of gross number, tech has certainly been impacted quite a bit. But I still don't know where we're at raw data wise, if that makes sense. I don't know how many people have actually lost their job that haven't been able to get them in the tech sector. I know
Yeah.
there's tech sectors that are not hiring anywhere close to what they were before. And I know software development's down huge. I think there's like 20% less job openings software development now than
Yeah.
there was a year ago. But they also had a massive surplus of jobs to candidates before. So I still think we're waiting on that raw data, but tech has definitely been impacted
What
because
do you what do you think of this? I'm just fascinated with the trend that everybody wants to, not everybody wants to get into management. Let me rephrase that. But I'm fascinated with I feel like the tech industry does not how do I say this? It's about managers and upper management. Like I feel like
because where the
tech,
bonuses are, dude. Like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
you can be an architect, right? And maybe you can make a boatload of money. Maybe you're, a highly compensated individual contributor. But like for most of my clients, I'm sure most of you too, like it's that manager and above that you get that sick bonus, right? Like I've
yeah.
got a company that, they give a company wide 5% bonus unless you're in management. Then that bonus starts at 15 and goes up to 35%, right? So
Interesting.
people are attracted to that. People think
Yeah,
that being in management is fun and exciting, and you get to lead and drive and innovate and be at the forefront of conversations and be in those closed door meetings. And but
yeah.
at the end of the day, like it's a shitty job sometimes, right? And it's not
Well, and
for
it's
everybody,
in what we're seeing right now. It's getting cut. I mean, it's happening.
right?
It's happening across the country where, hey, listen, like you're not producing, like we can't have you anymore, and it's just
Right.
kind of
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of
so
these.
then I feel like it's a cyclical thing where it's like, all right, well, if we're not gonna if we're not gonna keep managers, that
Mhm,
means the managers that we don't cut are overwhelmed now by taking on
mhm,
other team members, which
yeah.
then leads to burnout with team members, which then leads to attrition. And it's just this vicious fucking cycle.
Well, it's a super vicious cycle, and not only that, like most companies don't know how to absorb teams into other teams very
Right.
well. Most don't have continuity plans. Most don't have succession plans should somebody leave, and then it's a hair and fire approach, right? Because then what happens with a lot of management, especially the higher you get up, is and people move. They want to bring people that they know, and now everybody is, on the edge of their seat. Am I going to be let go? Is this person going
Right.
to bring in another person? And then it's just this like very awkward, tension filled
Yeah.
6 months to a year. And like that's the last thing that people read or need right now. Anxiety is already super high. Tension, wondering about what's going to happen to their job is already high. But yeah, I mean it's such a unfortunate part of this business and of the world. So, but yeah, I mean, companies really don't know how to do that anyway. So,
Yeah. And, another thing I want to talk about too, I mean, what, you and I kind of shared this document together. We're talking
mhm.
about like temporary employment has been below last year's level since
Yep.
2022. Lost 10,700 jobs in March of 2023. That's a negative 4.1% year over year. So temporary employment. So let's
Yeah.
talk about that. I mean, any kind of initial thoughts on the downturn of temporary employment, so contracting, freelancing, that type of thing?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about, just, CapEx spend, and a
Yeah,
lot of those positions are like project-based work, trying to push something out.
yeah,
I think staffing is expensive. If you have the ability to bring headcount
very
on,
expensive.
if somebody can, if you can save the business 30, 40, 50% on a markup, bringing somebody in-house, I think that you're going to do that. And I think you really start to evaluate, what are people on my team doing, right? What is the end product of what's happening? And I think that for the last few years, it's been such hair on fire that we may have lost what some of the output was. And I'm not saying that people weren't working, but sometimes if you have doubled the size of your team, did you necessarily double the output of that team? And I think that data is still coming out, right? But it's now back to, a bit of an employer's market right now. We're seeing a shift
Very much of employer's market, not a bit.
Heavy hybrid, right? I mean, remote is, again, I told you and Jake, I was like, this remote shit's not going to stick around, because the second there was turbulation, what happened? Oh, now we're going to hub our employees. Yes, we'll do remote, but we want them in these areas where other employers are.
Yeah.
Now, oh, hey, our first desire is to have this person in state. And then it's, hey, we really want this person local. They can work remotely 2 days a week.
I still see the regional. I still see the regional stuff.
And I don't know. I mean, remote is now probably amongst the highest levels it's ever been. Obviously, you take COVID out, take right
Sure.
after
Yeah.
COVID.
I mean, we're still heavy.
We're still significantly higher than we were before. But maybe you've seen it. We've definitely seen it here in Tampa. This move back to hybrid is going to continue to go. And I don't think we're going to go back to most companies or all companies being in office 5 days a week. But I do think that the hybrid, that there's hundreds and thousands of remote only jobs. Those are going to be the most in-demand jobs, the hardest to find and to get. So you're starting to see some of that. I know we lost track of the point of.
No, this is great. No, it's just, Dan, it's just good to catch up with you. It's just good.
Yeah, man.
Let me ask you this. And we're kind of going to turn the eye towards staffing in general right now. And, I think a lot of companies don't want to use staffing agencies right now, trying to save money, which I totally get. But why do you think, I have my answer, because I'll definitely say it, but I'm interested to hear from you first. Why do you think companies still need to use us right now?
Man, a couple of reasons. One is, I still think that the cost to use a staffing firm or professional services firm still outweighs the usual cost of working through the fodder of filling roles, right? In terms of speed, in terms of candidate quality, in terms of dotting I's and crossing T's, and trying to get to that point where when we do an interview, we know that this person can do a job, right? I've always said that that's the value prop of our business, right? Yeah. Is our goal is to help expedite the speed, right? And you have to lean into that as the company using a firm, right? To lean into that speed. But the goal has always been not that we can magically create a person and just type in a bunch of skill sets, press a button, and like this person comes out of a machine. It's always been, we're constantly talking to these hard to find, highly skilled, highly marketable, and highly in demand candidates. So if we're constantly doing that, if we can get you 3 or 4 people in 2 or 3 days compared to 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it might be, being able to get that person in the seat, we talked about it a minute ago, right? It avoids overwork of employees, which then creates burnout, which then creates attrition, and then creates a bigger need and additional demand. And if you're not working hard, you have a team of 10 that goes down to 8, that work doesn't go away. Now there's more work even on those 8. So there's that snowball effect. So you still need to get those jobs filled, right?
Yeah. Well, and also too, our dear friend Kelly Vaughn, who's a director of engineering out of Atlanta, she sent me a screenshot. She had 300 applications for a senior engineer in 24 hours. Senior. That's not mid or junior. Senior.
How many were qualified?
Well, I haven't followed up with her on that. But the thing is, though, is I think that's why companies still need to use Aveco because while yes, there are a lot more people on the market right now, it's going to take so much more time to sift through everything.
Yeah,
And we
I
do
mean,
that.
right. I mean that should be, what we do, right? And that the onus is on us to make sure that those are the more highly skilled, better quality candidates, right? And that falls back on us to make sure that it's not just what's the lowest hanging fruit out there, but what are we doing to help find, right? Like I always tell people, and this is like a peel behind the onion, like when we charge a company, let's say $25,000, $30,000 to find somebody, we don't make
And
$30,000.
people think
You
we
and I,
do. I was texting
right?
a
Yeah, I
director of
wish,
engineering
right?
yesterday. He was like, "How much would you make off me?" And I told him, he goes, "I need to be a recruiter." I go, "Bro, we don't
Yeah.
we don't take all of that."
There's things that we have to pay, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people think of that commission dollar amount, right? Or this is true for any sales, right? A lot of people just saying, "What money am I going to make on this deal?" Right?
Correct.
And I think the biggest thing that you need to remember, that we need to remember, we're not talking to anybody but staffing and salespeople right now. So if you're in IT, just pause, this comment. You need to teach your team that you are working on a $30,000 deal. You are working on a contract that's for a year and you're billing out $100,000 or $100 an hour. You're working on a $200,000 deal. Don't think about what my take home is. Think about how big of a deal that is. So you need to dot your I's, cross your T's. You need to provide that value of a service. Is this service worth $30,000?
Yeah.
When we lose track of that, of like, oh, well, the deal's going to get split in half and make 15. And then, what's my commission on that? Oh, I'm only walking away with X. It's like, that's not how you think about this. Right.
Right.
And that's the value in this market, to talk to clients. Hey, I'm going to treat every deal like it's 25,000 of your dollars. Like it is a $250,000 contract.
Yeah.
That's the way you need to think about it, especially in this market, because money is so tight.
100%, 100%. So another thing too on this labor report that Dan and I are looking at right now, quiet hiring. Have you heard? I have not heard. I've heard about quiet firing. I've not heard about quiet hiring offers new ways to snag in-demand talent. Have you heard about that? I haven't.
Let me
Google
quiet
that.
hiring.
Quiet hiring. Both of us.
Companies' reliance on quiet hiring is an age-old practice that describes companies' reliance on existing internal talent to fill roles or supplement skills gaps in the organization instead of hiring new employees. Quiet hiring can mean hiring
Like
a contractor or part-time.
It's just moving internal team members around. Somebody on TikTok goes, "Quiet hiring is happening."
No, I don't know. I mean, I think that this never went away. I think that companies are always looking to grow and develop their employees. Maybe because quiet fire and quiet quitting,
maybe we're just
whatever
going
we
to
called it
continue that
before,
trend.
well, we're just going to call everything quiet, right?
Yeah. Somebody says they're opening roles with the intent to hire internally. I mean, I think that's happened. I do have to say, I think it's more right now because everybody's laid off so many people. I think there's a lot of internal, I had another director of engineering message me yesterday about how, they're getting their team members taken away from them, like for other areas of the business. And I think a lot of that's happening right now. So if you want to call that quiet hiring, sure.
You can call it whatever the hell you want. If you want to call it moving employees within the organization. I mean, my dad's director of operations for a company right now. He was with them in sales before, right? So it's always happened, right? And it will continue to happen. Why? Because it's like probably the smart way to do things. Like, hey, if you're an insurance company and somebody was in claims and maybe they have an interest in IT, maybe they got their degree and you're like, hey, maybe we need a business analyst. Hey, that'd be pretty cool if you found somebody and had the ability to ramp up and train that person and say, hey, like if you want to be a business analyst, this is what your job is. You already understand the claims portion of it. So you have a pretty good idea of what we do. What if we move you into that part of the organization? A lot of companies are looking, but you got to be careful. It creates a lot of, I don't know if it's animosity, but it can create some awkwardness, right?
Yeah.
my better half, Brooke, is an internal acquisition, and a lot of what she internal talent acquisition, a lot of what she did was companies, or in her company, is people that were in one part of the business looking to move over to another. Does create some awkward situations at times, because now that other person is like left without a person, right? Their team is now going to be impacted. So like, yes, I want people to be upskilled, but also like there is like pitfalls to it as well. But
4-day work week. Have you seen it? Do you see it? You heard rumored.
I don't have any clients. I have a friend of mine that owns a business up in Gainesville. They're a marketing platform. They do 4-day work week. It works for them.
We've talked about this on the show. We've had G2I on the show.
Yeah.
Who's promoting, they're a software consulting agency promoting developer health and pushing maybe for some 4-day work weeks with their clients. But I mean, here's the deal. I mean, I would even argue I almost work 4-day work weeks now, because I don't have meetings on Fridays. Fridays are like my email catch up, basically trying to dump all the data back into our CRM today, right? Like it's kind of catch up day. So if you want to say like, maybe I work 4-day, but I'm still working 5 days. And we've talked about this. I just think the fees, I think it depends on the business.
Yeah.
I don't think
I think it works. I think it works for some, doesn't work for others. I mean, I think that it's worth evaluating for your business. I think, if you feel like your business can do it, then more power to you. 4 10-hour days for some people can be arduous. Is the quality of work there in hour 9 and hour 10? I don't know. I'm not doing the analysis, but I would imagine that a lot of companies that are, that have leaned into it, probably have some good results. It does, having a 3-day weekend every week potentially help make somebody rested? Maybe. Does that extra day give them, a way to unwind and recharge? I guess it depends, right? Like it all depends on the person and the employees that you have. Like if that person's going out then Thursday night, getting hammered drunk, spending Friday, recovering, and then doing the same thing Friday night and doing it on Saturday, like, is it much different? I don't know. Ian Lee, he worked, in the comments said I worked in a 9 to 80 schedule. Yeah, I had one of my really good friends worked at Lockheed Martin, and every other Friday they had off. They worked, 1 extra hour, and it worked for them. I mean, I think it really depends on the business. I think it depends on the employee, but I mean, it doesn't work for everybody. But I'm not against it if you're going to do it.
Well, and I think it's just like the hybrid remote situation, right? I think it just comes down to intentionality. And I think businesses are being a lot more intentional now, right? They have to be, but I think really at the end of the day, it's really just being intentional and knowing it works for your business. Another topic as we kind of wind down here this morning, is nearshoring, offshoring. Don't know if you had any clients, if you're seeing any trends. I mean, I know Global Solutions, we actually have a nearshore down in Trinidad to do APAR, kind of low level accounting stuff. Supposedly, I didn't realize this because I'm in the tech space, but supposedly in the accounting world, it's very hard to find APAR resources. So we offer that as a nearshore thing. We also have L1, L2 support out there as well. I didn't know kind of what you've been seeing.
No,
because of this time,
I've seen a lot more push from nearshore rather than offshore. If that makes any sense. I've seen a bunch.
What do you think about that?
I don't know if I feel like 100% comfortable talking about what I actually feel. I do know that, like, in terms of
hot take Thursday.
I mean, hot take Thursday is like, I'm finding a lot more of my companies going nearshore for development resources, or even going over to Eastern Europe than what they're traditionally doing.
Same.
And communication is a little bit smoother in terms of not just like native tongue, but just in terms of being able to collaborate. I'm seeing a lot more of a move to Eastern Europe and then South America and Central America, and even to the Caribbean to do development. So I don't have any data to back that up other than what I'm seeing here. But I think the big move of everything over just immediately over to to sub-Sahara or to the Asian continent is, I don't want to say it's dwindling, but I'm definitely seeing a lot more options out
Yeah.
there that people are.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's good. Again, I mean, I'm kind of seeing the same thing too. I've gotten a lot more conversations lately with Poland.
Yeah,
Poland seems to be popping up a lot
Poland
on
before
my
obviously
radar.
everything happened. Ukraine
Yep,
was really
Ukraine.
popping. Bulgaria,
Yep.
um,
Latin
Bosnia.
America,
Yeah, definitely seeing a lot in Latin America, both from
Argentina,
like whether
Brazil.
you want to call it Mexico, Latin America or not, but from Mexico through Central America to the northern part of South America, I'm seeing a bunch. I mean, I have a really good buddy of mine that runs a consulting firm, and they do a lot of their work Brazil, Argentina, and Venezuela. Not Venezuela, Peru and Ecuador.
Well, there's
So
and I just got a comment too on TikTok. I forgot about Nigeria.
oh,
Nigeria,
TikTok, yeah, Nigeria.
yeah, Nigeria town has been crushing it for our outsourced software engineers. Yeah, I mean, there's like the Nigerian community. I mean, they do a great job on Twitter, and I've met some pretty amazing resources in Nigeria. So that's awesome. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, everybody's looking at the value, right? It's not all cost based, right? But what's the
Right, I
value
agree
that
with
we're
that.
getting out? What's the
The
speed?
value.
What's the amount of time that we're spending in the requirements process to what
Yep.
does it look like when we are delivering a product, and what's that time um, gap in between, and what are we losing
Yep.
in cost, right? It's not always just a dollars and cents from a hourly rate or a weekly rate. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's dollars and cents in this project can get done in 6 months instead of 8 months,
Right.
because we don't have to jump through a lot of those hoops. um, but next time we talk about it, I'll come with a little bit more
Yeah. No, for
empirical
sure.
data.
For sure. I love it. Well, y'all, thanks for hanging out with us today. And next week we are back, our regular scheduled
I
program
won't be back.
with the
I
guys.
will
Yeah,
be
Dan
in
won't be.
Denver, Colorado,
I
back
love it.
again for
I
another
love it.
concert at Red Rocks.
I love it. So yeah, so next week we'll be back with a really cool startup named Grazi. So can't wait to share that with you. But again, y'all have a good one. TikTok, thanks for hanging out with us. LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. We appreciate y'all, and y'all have a good one. Peace.